Good morning to my now 31 subscribers. I used to only have 28, so I guess I'm getting big time now. Good morning to you. Thank you guys for being here. I guess maybe last time y'all saw the last video I had where I was having a hard time with my Smith & Wesson M&P 1522. That's a mouthful, but I got it out. I think I've got that problem licked though. So, sit back, enjoy all my hard work, all my dedication. You guys are going to love it. Check this out. Here's what we did. And this is the rifle in all her glory. Everything stock, brand new bolt from Smith & Wesson when I was having my issues. Everything should be good to go. But it wasn't. It just would not fire more than 5 rounds at a time. I was convinced it had to be a magazine issue, but there's a problem with that. The problem is that I wasn't having issues with the magazine until I sent the rifle to Smith & Wesson to have the repair done. Once I got the rifle back, that's when it started having feeding issues. So instead of going with my instinct, and I am by no means this master gunsmith, guys, but instead of going with my instincts, I went after the rifle. And I mean, I threw everything I could at this rifle. I went at it with 400 grit sandpaper. I went at it with 800 grit sandpaper. I followed that up with 1,000 grit sandpaper. Moved it up to 3,000 grit sandpaper. Even threw some Flitz polish into the mix. I even threw coffee at it. Just kidding. I would never waste good coffee. Crazy good coffee! I mean, I went after this thing with everything, and I sanded down and polished a lot of parts. I polished the slide rails that the bolt rides on. I polished the feed ramp. And I mean, I got that stuff slicker than snot on a glass doorknob, guys. That some gun runs slick now, but I was still having those issues. And it wasn't until I took it out in the woods in really bright daylight and no shade or anything like that, and I saw what the issue was. If you look where I'm trying to shine this light, there's a little square dimple at the back of the magazine. It is on both sides. There it is on that side. There it is on that side. Way back there in the back, right next to the blue light you're seeing. Now on the back of a 22 cartridge, there's a little rim. And I believe that's what those dimples serve a purpose for. That is to guide that round up with each shot and to keep it towards the back of the magazine. But here's where it became a problem. For some reason, my cartridges, instead of staying in the back and going behind that dimple and sliding up, they were riding forward. And as they rode forward, they'd get up to that dimple, and eventually that dimple would pinch one on that rim. Once it got pinched, the cartridge would just start pointing up, and no other rounds could come up, and it wasn't feeding anything. That's when I noticed there's my problem. It is the magazine. It's those little dimples. So with that new information in hand, I took my attention away from the rifle. I figured, hey, the rifle must be good, so let's look at the magazines. So I started looking at those divots and decided they needed to go. So I didn't throw my Dremel tool at it. I placed my Dremel tool into the situation, and I got in there with a sculpting bit, and I just ground down those divots till they were flat, and it allowed access, or room, you should say, for the bullets to come up without being pinched in between those two divots. And this is what I ended up with. It's not pretty. It looks awful, but it is pretty slick. I did take some Flitz polish to it. I started using sandpaper, but realized I was hitting the edges of the magazine up top, as you can see right there on the right-hand side, and that's not a good thing. You don't want to do that, so I stopped. So now we're going to see if this works out. I hope it solves my issues. We're going to go to the range right now and see how it turns out. I'm a G.